The elder psychologist was looking pleased with himself. Isn't this Chalmers'
Lost,
line?
we can't hear you. Is your sound on, Lost?
Sorry, I'm not sure what happened there. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, you sound good. At least up
Okay.
on the stage.
This elder
Trifle
psychologist was looking...
Sorry.
Okay. I just thought I'd give it again.
I'll do,
The elder,
please.
The elder psychologist was looking pleased with himself.
A trifle harrowing that session, but gratifyingly informative. I really feel I've learned something about quantitative control. In fact, I'm confident that in a few months' research, I can learn enough not only to transform Florimel and to rejuvenate myself, but also to revolutionize the entire practice of magic in Faerie to make its benefits available to all.
Yes, but did you find out what they intend to do about Belphoebe?
I gather that that is a matter for the executive session of tomorrow, but as I understand the outlines of the plan, it is not to direct the enchantments against her in person. She's protected against them. They intend, rather, to place spells on the 2 or 3 places where she sleeps, with a design of causing her to fall into so deep a slumber that she can be captured.
They paused on Chalmers' threshold. He added,
However, I wouldn't worry about the young woman's safety, Harold. As I understand it, she is to be brought here, and I am sure that as a member of the chapter, I can persuade them not to harm her. In fact...
For the love of Mike, Doc, are you throwing in with these guys or just plain taffy? Didn't you hear Duessa talking about pulling Belphoebe's toenails out come the revolution? And Darlin mentioning the torture chamber. Wake up, you're being an old fool.
Harold, I must request you not to use such intemperate language. After all, I'm somewhat your senior, and I require the uninterrupted use of all facilities, as well as your own cordial cooperation to put this matter on a scientific basis. In a few months, I shall be in a position to effect an industrial revolution in magic.
Theory. Months. I might have known that's what you'd be after. Can't you realize somebody's in danger?
I shall certainly give my most earnest attention to persuading the other members of the chapter that this young woman to whom you are so attached is innocuous, and...
Oh, for Pete's sake. Forget it. Good night.
Shay stalked out, more angry with Chalmers than he had ever been before. He did not hear the velvety click of the Judas window in Chalmers' room, nor could he overhear the 2 men in the secret passage that led to that window. Busy Rain's voice was bland.
We were good enough to warn you that the young man was a suspicious character and mingled somehow in the affairs of the court.
Can it be that my judgment, usually so keen, was altogether thrown off?
Oh, you were right about the older. He's a proper magician and devoted. But the younger, he'll bear more than watching. A friend of Belphoebe, forsooth.
Shay lay in bed, staring at the black ceiling. No use trying to get the doc to do anything. His heart was in the right place, but between his devotion to Florimel and his devotion to theory, he could not be convinced that these enchanters, who talked so glibly of intellectual achievements, were bloody-minded racketeers who intended to put Belphoebe, Britomart, and a lot of others to a slow and intricate death. Shay shuddered as he thought of it. Whatever was done to save them, he would have to do it quickly, yes, and to keep Chalmers from turning the products of his really fine scientific mind over to these rascals. The castle was quiet. He slipped out of bed, dressed, and buckled the faithful épée over his shoulder. It would not be much use against enchantments, but as long as the enchanters themselves believed it had magical power, It would help. The door swung open noiselessly. There was no light in the corridor. The stone floor was cold under Shay's feet. His soft leather boots made soundless progress. If he kept one hand along the wall, he thought he could find the way to the great hall, and so out, step, step, the hand that had been following the wall touching nothingness. An appalling odor of cockatrice assailed his nostrils, evidently the door of somebody's laboratory. He went down to hands and knees and slithered past, an inch at a time, hoping the creature would not wake up. So, here was the head of the stair. He took one step down, two, and felt something soft touch his ankles. Another step, and the something soft was clear to his waist, catching at him. It felt ropey and vaguely slimy, a whole tangle of slime, cobwebs. For a moment, Harold Shay felt unreasoning panic, as it seemed that going ahead and turning back would be equally fatal. Then he realized that this could be some of Busy Rain's magic, part of the ordinary castle safeguards and of no special significance. Yet, what would cut through or destroy cobwebs? Fire. He had no fire. But in his previous adventures in Scandinavian myth, Surt's giants had made use of flaming swords, and he had the epee. With an incantation to make use of the law of similarity, it might become a flaming sword. On that narrow, stone-walled spiral staircase, it was altogether unlikely that anyone would be able to see the light. With the ghostly fingers of the cobwebs clutching at his legs, Shay stood on the stair and thought, as he never had before, of a spell.
Sword, sword, sword that is now my salvation. Make me a light to cut through these cobwebs. Be like Surt's sword to cut through this maze.
He could feel the hilt growing warm.
Help my escape to reach consummation. In the name of Durandal, help me to be free.
It was not outrageously good poetry, but the hilt was so hot that he snatched it out. A smoky red flame ran down the blade and dropped from the point, revealing the whole stairwell from wall to wall, and as high as Shay stood, filled with a solid mass of the hideous gray material. A man could smother in it easier than not. Busy Rain left nothing to chance. Shay slashed at the stuff with the flaming epee. It shriveled left and right before him, back against the wall with hissing, foul-smelling flames running along the strands. He advanced slowly, cutting one step at a time. As he reached the bottom and the last cobwebs, the fire in the blade went out. He was in the great hall, but a few steps carried him through it, across to the forecourt and to the gate. A moon looked down out of a cloudless sky. Shay cursed it softly to himself, wondering whether he ought to take a chance on crossing the open stretch between gates and the shelter of the trees before it set. He decided to try it. Bending low, he scuttled rapidly across the space, his cloak flapping like a vampire's wings. He made it without stumbling and looked back. The castle had disappeared. There was nothing visible but stony ground, with the hut in the middle. Once among the trees, he began pacing the circuit of the clearing, whistling very softly to himself the unicorn tune and pausing to listen. A quarter of the way around, he was halted by a tense whisper.
Stand, sir.
Belphoebe!
She stepped from her place of concealment, arrow drawn to the head.
In good sooth, you look like Harold de Shay, but show me how you hold that narrow sword.
Shay drew the still warm epee and demonstrated.
Certes, then you are indeed he. I feared lest the enchanters had sent a phantom forth to beguile me. Right glad I am to see you, Squire Harold.
Say, I'm glad to see you too. I knew I could depend on it.
Save your fair speeches for another hour. Here is danger. What is toward?
Shay explained.
For myself, I fear not, though I thank you for the warning. Yet it's somewhat otherwise with Britomart, who has not the protection of the wood so close as I, and since it were shame to miss the chance of catching the entire chapter at once, let me think. I left Artegall at the woodcutter's cot on the fat flank of Lorzelwood. His man Talmus has gone to fetch Cambria. She sorry. I'll give you that again. I lost my place. I left Artegall at the woodcutter's cot on the far flank of Lorzelwood. His man Thomas had gone to fetch Cambria, that she might heal his bruises and calm his mind.
So, Gambina is a psychologist too.
Why,
Why does he
sir,
need his mind calmed?
he's the chief justicular of all fairy. Without a calm mind, how shall he hold the balance even? Let us go thither, and lay this matter before him. Certes, we two cannot lay so many rogues by the heels alone.
2 hours of walking brought Shay to the yawning stage. The moon had set. Under the black trees, even the sure-footed Belphoebe found the going hard. She was ready to listen to suggestions for a nap.
Sleep is still far from me now. If you wish, I will keep watch for the first hour, which should be till the stars of the bear sink to the top of that tree.
She pointed. Shay, too drowsy to notice, composed himself to rest. The next thing he knew, he was being shaken awake in a brightening world.
Hey, young lady. I thought you were going to wake me up after the first hour.
And so thought I, but you were so in comfort that I wanted the heart to rouse you. I need but little sleep.
Naughty. What about my masculine pride?
She made a face at him.
I forgot that. Men are such foolish carles about it. But come.
She danced a step or two.
Tira lira, a brave day. Let's forth and seek our breakfast.
As they walked along, Belphoebe peering toward the thicket for an edible target, and Shay a bit woozy from lack of sleep, he asked,
Do you suppose Gambina will have calmed Artegall down, so he'll listen to my explanations before he starts carving?
A thing to think on. Will you hide whilst I speak him fair?
I guess I'll take a chance on his temper.
Shay wasn't going to have his dream girl suspect him of timidity at this stage. He was sure he could outrun the bulky justiciar if necessary.
Mary, I would not have you answer otherwise.
She smiled at him, and he felt rewarded. She went on, scrutinizing him.
Many knights, squires, and yeomen have I keened, Master Harold, but never a wight like you. You speak fair, yet have the time with words I wot not of. You promise to explain the meanings of those wherewith you put the blatant beast to rout.
Curiosity killed a cat.
Meow. Yet this cat's allotted 9. I have several left to draw upon.
I really can't, Belphoebe. Magical reasons.
Oh, well then, tell me the meaning of the strange thing you called the Lady Gambina even now.
Psychology.
Aye.
Shay gave an account in words of one syllable of the science of psychology, and of his own experiences in its practice. Under the girl's admiring curiosity, he expanded. Before he knew it, he was practically telling her the story of his life. As soon as he realized this, he cut his autobiography off short, not wanting to leave her with nothing to be curious about.
A strange tale, squire. Gin, you speak truth. This homeland of yours were worth the seeing. The wilds of Faerie, I know little. I'll give you that again. The wilds of Faerie, I know like my own palm. And since I will not tarry at Gloriana's tedious court, there's nothing left for me but to hunt the luzels, and such vile...
She broke off, moving slowly a couple of steps, and loosed an arrow. It knocked over a rabbit. While they dressed and cooked their breakfast, Shay thought. He finally ventured.
Look here, kid. Someday Doc and I will be going back, I suppose. Why don't you plan to come with us?
Belphoebe raised her eyebrows.
'Tis a thought audacious. But stay, could I live among the wood paths as I do here?
Shay imagined the horrible complications that would ensue if Belphoebe tried to lead her present life in Ohio's close-fenced farmland.
I'm afraid that wouldn't be practical, but there's plenty else to do.
What then? How should I live in one of your great towns?
That problem had not occurred to Shay. He revised his estimate of Belphoebe. The girl might look like something out of a medieval romance, but she had a core of hard common sense. The only job he could think of for her was giving bow and arrow lessons, and he hardly supposed the demand for professional archers to be large. He said vaguely.
Oh, we'll figure something out. Doc and I would see to it that you're,
Harold, what are you proposing? Think not that I... just a second. Sorry. Harold, what are you proposing? Think not that because I lead a free roving life, I...
No. I didn't mean,
What then?
He thought again. One obvious solution was staring him in the face. Yet to bring it up so early might spoil everything. Still, nothing ventured. He drew a deep breath and plunged.
Were you stopping there? Let's stop.
No.
I don't know.
Continue.
Are we stopping
Continue.
here? We can.
Narrator, can you restart? I thought that was the end. Actually, this might be a good place, right? It's at 5:27.
Yeah, it could be
Either
a very
way.
good place. We gotta go on to the next story.
Okay.
How about it, Myra?
Sure.
Okay, good. And we'll backtrack a sentence or two, kind of get a momentum on that. I mean, that I think would be smart. So you can get